The New York Mets, who didn't have a lot of expectations coming into the season, are starting to sink in the standings. So is this the beginning of the end of a lost season for the Mets? I haven't talked much about the New York Mets, both over the winter and now at the beginning of the season. Haven't had much comment on them because, quite frankly, there's not a lot of expectations for the Mets this season. The first few weeks of the season, the Mets kind of hung around 500. They were over 500. But the Phillies came into Citi Field recently and swept them and plunged the Mets to an under 500 record. And now there's concern that this could be the beginning of the end, that the bottom is going to fall out on the Mets for the rest of the season. And let's face it, folks, there's not a lot to like with this Mets team. You know, they got bad news coming into the season with Johan Santana having to have surgery once again and being out for the season. And the Mets really don't have a lot going for them in the pitching department. I mean, they do have the phenom, Matt Harvey, who's a rookie pitcher, who you just hope continues to pitch at a high level for the entire season. Because if he ever hits the skids and starts to struggle, as all rookies do, there's going to be no reason to go out and see the Mets at Citi Field or anywhere else this season. You know, beyond Harvey in that rotation, you have John Neese, who's a very good pitcher. And if you had him on a good ball club, I think you'd really see that John Neese might just be considered one of the top pitchers in the National League. And then you have Dylan Gee, who's a so-so pitcher. He's a young guy who's getting better, but he's not quite there yet. And then you don't have a whole lot after that in the Mets rotation, and you just kind of hope that Zach Wheeler can get himself straightened out at AAA and get himself up to the majors as soon as possible to give the Mets something for their fans to go see. Because quite frankly, there's not a lot going on in this Mets lineup. You got to feel bad for David Wright, who signed a contract extension with the Mets in the offseason. There's not much there beyond him. I mean, Ike Davis is supposed to be a power source at first base, and he still might be, but he hasn't hit at all early in the season, and he's really struggled. Mets have no outfield beyond Lucas Duda, who does have some pop in his bat. And all in all, it's just going to be a long season, I think, for the Mets. I don't think they're going to ever climb back above 500 this season. And if they should ever go on a prolonged losing streak here early in the season, I think their fans are going to lose all interest for just about the rest of the season and look forward to 2014. You look at their bullpen. Sandy Alderson has not done a good job with bullpen construction in his time with the Mets, and it's really been bad this year. And with their starting pitchers not getting deep into games, that's going to tax the bullpen even more. So when you add all these things up, bad pitching, so-so starting pitching, bad bullpen pitching, and, you know, limited success as far as runs scored from the lineup, you really are in a bad situation if you're a Mets fan. It's probably going to be a long season, and the Mets, as I said, are sinking in the standings right now. Once they hit last place, it's hard to see them getting out of there. They may contend with the Marlins for that spot, but other than that, I think it looks to be a very, very long season for the Mets, barring something unforeseen. So if you're a Mets fan out there and you're looking at this season and watching the Phillies come into Citi Field and sweep the Mets, is this the beginning of the end? Is this the final straw and the last stand of the Mets? Will they be heard from again this season? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and tell all your friends about This Week in Red. And don't forget to check out my blog at BoSoxInjection.com.